Arcadian Vanguard presents The Wrestling News and your daily wrestling newscast for Tuesday, January 10th, 2025. Good morning, I'm Mike Sempervive. We begin with a ratings report on Monday Night Raw's Netflix debut last Monday. The show received a total of 4.9 million views around the globe live on Netflix, according to an official statement. Out of that, the show averaged 2.6 million households in the United States watching live, which is more than double Raw's average 2024 household viewership of 1.2 million. That also makes it the most watched Monday Night Raw broadcast in the United States in the past 5 years. The viewership in the 18 to 49-year-old demographic also reportedly more than doubled the 2024 average. TNA Wrestling presented Impact last night on Access TV, featuring matches taped on December 14th at Center Stage Theater in Atlanta. In the main event, Joe Hendry and Rhino defeated Nick and Ryan Nemeth in what was touted as Rhino's last match in TNA. Eric Young, Steve Macklin, and Jonathan Gresham defeated the System when Macklin pinned JDC. The System then attacked the winners when the match was over. Tessa Blanchard interrupted Jordan Grace's promo segment, leading to a pull-apart brawl which prompted Santino Marella to set up a match between the two for TNA Genesis. A similar situation occurred when Danny Luna and Jody Threat interrupted the promo of Ash by Elegance and Heather by Elegance. In other results, Mike Santana's gauntlet match against the Northern Armory went to a no contest. Lei Ying pinned Savannah Evans, and the Rascals topped the Good Hands. Ring of Honor streamed last night on Honor Club, featuring matches taped Saturday at the Bojangles Coliseum in Charlotte, North Carolina. In the main event, Shane Taylor Promotions defeated the Gates of Agony. ROH World TV Women's Champion Red Velvet was in action, defeating Jasmine Howe in a non-title proving ground match. In other results, Boulder beat Griff Garrison, MXM Collection topped the Dawsons, Blake Christian went over Serpentico, Trish Adora pinned Harley Cameron, Queen Aminata defeated Rachel Ellering, and Billy Starks beat Brittany Jade. And in some unfortunate news, both Rick Harris, the 1970s, 80s, and 90s Southern Territory wrestler known as Black Bart, as well as renowned 1950s and 60s French welterweight wrestler Gilbert Seska, have reportedly passed away. Harris died at the age of 76 after a battle with stage 4 colon cancer that had spread to his liver, according to a social media post last night from his wife Linda, which was first reported by Slam Wrestling. With a career that stretched back to 1975, Black Bart wrestled throughout the Southeast and Texas, with a notable stint coming in Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling in the mid-1980s, where he held the NWA National title, was the second-to-last Mid-Atlantic champion, and also held the Mid-Atlantic Tag Team title as one half of the Long Riders with Ron Bass. Bart and Bass also had success in Florida, where they held the United States Tag Team title. Bart also teamed with Bobby Jaggers and Tony Anthony to hold the Florida Tag titles on 2 separate occasions. He was also known for his time in Dallas for World Class Championship Wrestling, where he was awarded the WCWA World Heavyweight title in 1986 after previous champion Chris Adams left the promotion. Bart moved around often in the 1980s, also spending time in Memphis, Georgia, Mid-South, and Southeastern, and even made a tour of All Japan in 1983. Following the collapse of the territory system, Bart continued to find work in the Florida-based PWF and the USWA, and worked as an enhancement talent for the WWF from 1990 to 1991, where his experience was put to use as the first opponent for incoming wrestlers like Dustin Rhodes and the Legion of Doom. His last significant push came in WCW in 1991, when he was part of the Desperados stable with Dutch Mantell and Dead-Eye Dick, aka Randy Colley. He wrestled sporadically throughout the 1990s, mostly in independents, holding the GWF Tag Team title with John Hawk, the future JBL, who was a trainee of his. Bart retired in 2002, although he was known to wrestle sporadically on occasion in Texas. The passing of Gilbert Seska at the age of 93 was also reported yesterday by Ost's Wrestling Archive on Twitter. Known for a fast-paced, energetic, mat-based style reminiscent of modern-day grapplers like Timothy Thatcher and Zack Sabre Jr., Seska was celebrated internationally during his heyday in the 1950s and 60s as a highly entertaining lighter-weight wrestler, and his contributions were also reappraised in recent years when some of his matches resurfaced on YouTube. Seska spent the majority of his 24-year career in France, wrestling extensively for several French wrestling organizations, most notably Fédération Française de Catch Professionnel, the promotion commonly known as French Catch, the leading promotion in continental Europe from the 1930s until the arrival of the WWF at the end of the 1980s. Cesca debuted in 1949 and by the late 1950s was drawing much attention in matches against other dynamic lighter-weight wrestlers such as Billy Cantazaro and René Benchamoul. Cesca rarely ventured outside of France, but was known to occasionally come to Britain to make appearances for joint promotions where he wrestled top UK lighter-weight stars such as Jackie Paulo and Mick McManus. He also appeared on at least one brief tour of EMLL in Mexico in 1963. Cesca's only known matches on the US and Canadian scene came in the summer of 1959, when he was brought in along with Benchamoul for a series of matches between the two that took place in Quebec for promoter Eddie Quinn, in Boston for Paul Bowser, and even elsewhere in the Northeast for Vince McMahon Sr.'s Capital Wrestling. Cesca and Chamoul's exciting style even brought them to the attention of Madison Square Garden promoters Jack Pfeffer, Pedro Martinez, and Cola Coriani, who brought them to the Garden during that summer tour, where they opened the show on a card headlined by Antonio Rocca and Miguel Perez. Cesca retired in 1973. And before we leave you today, we'd like to remind you that however you consume your content, you can find the wrestling news 24 hours a day and 7 days a week across social media. On Twitter, follow us at Wrestling News AV. Our Facebook page is also Wrestling News AV. The Wrestling News can also be found on the Arcadian Vanguard YouTube page. And for those who utilize Amazon Echo devices, just tell Alexa to play the Wrestling News podcast. And remember to make sure you add podcast at the end. Once again, for daily updates, breaking news, and more, follow the Wrestling News across social media. And that's the news for today. If anything happens, we will be here to tell you about it. No clickbait, no paywall, just the Wrestling News. The Wrestling News is a division of Arcadian Vanguard, and the Wrestling Newscast is a production of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network.